and you'll see the signs and the symbols and the little static or the little things we were hearing about in the background as we were talking probably wasn't a defect. It was probably we had some company and some help. So sometimes, that's what I feel. I feel that the people who are supposed to hear us will hear us and will hear the words. You don't have to produce them or worry so much about it, because that's my opinion, and that's what they've channeled to me many times. Because one of the hardest things I have to do is explain to people how this is. And so you're not the only one. I totally relate to that. But what's interesting to me right now is with all that's going on in our globe, on this planet, why more people aren't seeking beyond this awareness. I mean, I know a lot of them are, but the majority still aren't.
I'm curious about that.
She who asked the question has an answer. Let's look at that. So, Karen, you can't pose the question. Psychology, you can't pose the question without having an idea of the answer. So, from your perspective, since you evoked the question, what do you think is the answer?
I think the answer is that they're here to go forward with this and to awaken, and I do believe that there are different stages of what's going to happen here. And I just think that we're all here to develop and learn, and we're people like us who are interested in what we've been talking about are here to awaken those that are having a hard time to wake up and see on a higher level. That's my opinion.
Yeah, some people. You were saying, why aren't there more?
We're all driven.
Something like that.
We're all driven. We're all here talking right now because we're driven. We have a force and a desire that's probably most of what we think about. And so that energy goes out there. Yeah, I just, that's what I believe.
Okay, so TJ, what's your answer to that question?
I didn't hear the question.
Well, the question was more of a statement. It was kind of a mixture. It wasn't really a question. I guess it's a statement. I'm concerned as to what it's going to take to awaken more people, to move to. That's what I'm. We've hit the pretty.
When I got into that spiritual, religious side of Tom and the extraterrestrials, because they are so advanced, they don't have wants or needs or desires, but they will not war or fight or kill. And, that's why they wanted me and Tom, and we were treated like royalty because of our DNA enhancement, I guess, our being human. They treated us like we were royalty. Now, I do know some of the people, because one of the investigations, one of the girls in one of my metaphysical groups was looking for her father, and I wouldn't take on the investigation. There's some, I didn't care how much money they paid me, because my minimum was $5,000 just to start, and then $55 an hour after that, because investigation's hard, and I have to use a lot of my contacts. It's complicated for people, but anyway, they told me that yes, I was asking extraterrestrials, and it was very hard because they were more involved with doing universal, universe to universe, and how we figure out, past, present, future, and watching us with our energy and nuclear, and the people that Tom and I worked with that were high-minded physicists or engineers or astronauts or government officials that were, at that level are read into the compartmentalized, way above the president and all that. They would, a lot of them would work in groups and teams with people from all over the world, but they didn't know how to leave either. And I was amazed as why our government and all the planet, with the different people working in research and development, underground usually, because that Army Corps of Engineers in the United States made those, I guess during World War II, because I didn't get to discuss a lot of religion because Tom wouldn't, because he didn't want to messing with his belief system about God and the Bible. But I was curious because of the Anunnaki and Sumerian tablets and all that stuff, so we had a difference of opinion of our human reality, called your history, culture, or biological intelligence in a human form, right? So while we were developing our future AI selves, there was a pushback, is what we say in today's time. Tom would push back, so I didn't get to learn as much. But what I could surmise, don't quote me, but this is in my own mind's eye with my little pea brain, because I understood our brains were so small we couldn't handle everything, was that human souls, as they come out of this place where they make them in space, evolve, not like AI, because they can do that too. It's they can make anything. It's like in the future, we don't have wants, needs, and desires. We don't have sex. We don't have marriages. We have a lot of beings, all colors and all kind of. They may or may not have sex, like what was it on the Earth? Lizards, or I don't know. There's some things in nature here that has sex with women and no sex at all. They can make babies. So there's all those types in space, right? But it was hard for me because they would send women to Tom to mate, and yet it wasn't required. It was his choice. But some women wanted to have babies. So I was like, what is all this about? Because I wasn't married to him. I was with him for 5 years. So I would get jealous, which was not a good thing. So even though we were treated like royalty, we still had emotions to develop in our biological systems. That was their, it's like them going back in time, because I could go into the future. They could go back in time. And then in this other place where the Allied Council would talk to the Supreme Council, they would establish who got to come and go universally, sort of like wormholes, but they're not. We steer clear dark black holes, so I got that. But the part that they were most curious in was, for entertainment purposes, was how we evolved as souls. So it has to do with universal level of intelligence, how they see biologicals in nature, everything, all animals, humans, all types of humans, and then the gods. They have the demigod level. They have the angelic realm, or the angels that can't go in. They can come and go like avatars, but there's the angelics and the council level that have evolved through thousands of years, and then they have the millions of years, if you want to go on a timeline. But the way that I understand each one of us as a containment unit is we are, like some of the Greys know they're biologicals, but they're also AI, and they're okay with that because they're created. So they're created differently than ones that can mate or have, like humans say, soul. But in the future, it's all the same thing. And so they come back for souls to evolve in this time because the biologicals here have emotions. Over millennia, over millions of years, billions, trillions of years, they have evolved out of the type that we are. So my understanding is they're trying to, well, they don't have to try, they do it. They're so far advanced, they can't really make people like me with a human brain understand who they are. So there's levels in involvement. So the best I could do was I was asking them, okay, one of my assignments was to recruit some, like Star Wars, what do they call them? Pilots. It scared me to death, so I went to Roswell to talk to Glenn Dennis about it because, why did I go to Glenn Dennis? They sent me. So they wanted him to know, they wanted me to talk to him and confirm for him before he died about the Greys. So they had me talk to him in a private session about Jesus and the Grays, and heal one man for Sally Hester, because she put everything with the Jesus level, and I got to meet him, or the person for me that was a Jesus level. That's a level of intelligence, a level of existence, vibration, source code, or whatever. So I wanted to. I didn't want to, but I did it for her so she could see how it worked when you're working in that belief system she's in with Jesus. So they told me to tell this man he was going to die of a heart attack if he didn't go see about himself. And Glenn and Sally want to know how that worked. Who are you to Jesus? And I said, I'm his daughter. They're like, what? And I said, well, and you're the way you think, I would be his daughter in this reality. But in the past lives, I was, a daughter. But in this reality, I'm just a follower of that level of intelligence. So, but sometimes they'll let me heal people, So anyway, I didn't have to heal him. I just had to show Sally and Glenn how it worked, because they knew Glenn was going to pass. He was getting, I don't know if it was Alzheimer's or something where he couldn't remember stuff. But when I went to get those pilots, it was hard to believe. So Sally was a believer, but she didn't know how to accept it. So she and I I think she ordered my book. I had to go make copies for $65 because it's real thick. It wasn't printed on the planet. So she asked me if I knew who George Knapp was, and I said no. But she met with him about me, but they didn't pursue anything because I think the ETs get involved. But it's very complicated, but it's like, from what I could understand, we got to train, me and Tom, around the U.S. with video games, with the Star Trek video games, and show people and meet men and show them. And I met with people that were real pilots in simulations in Oklahoma. And then, it's real deep. It gets real deep real fast. So it depends on where you take me, Karen. But I hope that helps. It's
I think it's very interesting.
Yeah, it's just my story,
right.
But it's all I could surmise from not them quoting me word by word, because they didn't. It was ESP. But when you're on a different reality and you're trying to find out things and you only know the words on the planet, you know what I mean? Like, well, what are these fire claims have, or what is this Bible? And, that's basic instruction before leaving Earth, depending on the history that you've been left by your fellow humans. Great.
Right.
And I always learned the people that won the wars are the ones that wrote it anyway, but sometimes they could stuff stuff, and they found that a lot of those stories are true. So I didn't feel too bad, but Tom just didn't want to hear it. He didn't want them to change his reality. His father was a preacher, his uncle was a preacher, his grandfather lived to be 108, almost 109 years, and they just wanted to know what they wanted, and they preached doom and gloom. And Tom asked his grandfather, why are you always preaching doom and gloom in the churches? And he said, because it works. It works. It keeps people humble. Anyway, I'll shut up. Janet, back to you.
No, I think that was very good. I think you spoke very well, extremely interesting. And I could see it all. I could see, I'm able to see a little film, like watching a little movie while you're talking, as we can do. So I think that was very well. I think that we've had so many things in our world, not in our lifetime, but gosh, we just finished with 9/11, 20 years ago almost, 19, 20 years ago, and it's stayed for a while with people. And it caused a lot of people to awaken.
Janet and I had a producer working with us, and he killed himself, but people don't know he took his own life. Yeah, he worked.
Wow.
When I was in California, I had an office here for 5 years. I went to do psychic readings for some of their people, and I went to Ron Howard's office. It was Ron Howard, Brian Grazer, but Paul Rosenberg worked there. But Paul came with us because he was getting confused. He got that Solomon sickness, when you get too much in your belly, metaphysically or magically, that you'll you sort of implode on yourself. But he got caught in that rapture. What's it